your life can change in an instant. Not by luck, not by accident, but by a shift in the way you think. That's the power we're talking about here. It's not just wishful thinking. It's a decision, a choice, and it starts in the mind. Let me ask you something. What drives you? What gets you up in the morning ready to take on the day? Because let me tell you, most people don't have an answer. They wake up, go through the motions, react to whatever life throws at them, and wonder why they feel stuck. No direction, no focus, just drifting. Now, let me take you back to 1869. There's a young man, 27 years old, just finished medical school at Harvard. You'd think he's set, right? Bright future ahead. But instead, he's drowning in despair. His name, William James. And at that point, he wasn't just struggling. He was on the edge. The kind of deep, dark crisis that makes a man question whether life is even worth living. Now, this wasn't new for James. He had spent years battling illness, dealing with intense sadness, fighting through medical school like it was a war zone. But this was different. This was a crisis that gripped him so tight he could barely breathe. The idea of ending it all. That wasn't just a passing thought. It followed him day and night. And yet, listen to me now. This same man went on to become one of the most influential psychologists in history. One of the great thinkers of our time. What changed? What turned the tide? It happened in 1870. James came across the work of a French philosopher, Charles Renouvier. And in that moment, something clicked. Renouvier wrote about free will, about the power to choose our thoughts. And James took that idea and made a decision, one that changed his entire life. He wrote in his journal, "Yesterday was a turning point in my life. I finished the first part of Renouvier's essay and see no reason to dismiss his definition of free will, the power to sustain a thought because I choose to, as mere illusion. For now, I will assume it is real. My first act of free will shall be to believe in free will itself." Now think about that. He didn't wait for proof. He didn't ask for guarantees. He made a decision to believe, to take control of his mind. And that decision, my friends, was the start of everything. James realized something most people never do. While you can't control every thought that pops into your head, you can control which ones you hold on to, which ones you feed, which ones you let shape your life. That's power. That's freedom. You see, the difference between feeling trapped and feeling in control isn't about what's happening around you. It's about what's happening inside you. It's the difference between saying, I can't help feeling this way and I choose to feel this way. And that's the lesson. That's the shift. The moment you understand that your mind is not your master, you are. Everything changes. So the question is, what will you choose? Next, life is a constant battle of the mind. The thoughts you allow to take root, the ideas you choose to focus on, they shape your reality. And William James, he figured that out. See, James realized something powerful. It wasn't just about understanding his thoughts. It was about deciding which ones deserved his attention. That's the key. Because here's the truth. Thoughts will come whether you invite them or not. Doubts, fears, worries, they show up unannounced. But the real question is, are you going to let them run the show? Or are you going to take charge? Think about it. Ever been caught in a spiral of worry? One thought pulls in another, then another, and before you know it, you're drowning in stress. It's like a magnet pulling in iron filings. You don't even realize it's happening. But here's where James made a shift. Instead of letting those thoughts dictate his emotions, he made a choice. He asked himself, is this thought serving me? And if the answer was no, he let it go. Now that sounds simple, but it takes work. Most people believe they have no control over their emotions. They say, I can't help but feel this way. But what if you could? What if instead you said, I choose how to feel about this? That changes everything. James didn't ignore difficult emotions. He wasn't pretending everything was fine. No, he faced them. But he refused to be ruled by them. He saw sadness, frustration, and fear for what they were. It's temporary, just waves on the ocean. And like a skilled sailor, he learned to navigate. Couldn't stop the waves from coming, but he could choose how to steer. That's what separates those who master their lives from those who feel powerless. The ability to choose. To recognize that while you may not control every thought that enters your mind, you absolutely control which ones you hold on to. And in that choice, you find power. You find freedom. So ask yourself, what kind of thoughts are you feeding? Because the ones you nurture will shape your life. Next, one of the greatest realizations a person can have is that they are not at the mercy of their own mind. William James figured this out, and when he did, it changed everything. Not just for him, but for anyone willing to apply the same principle. See, James didn't just believe in free will. He made a choice to believe in it. And that, right there, is the lesson. He understood that free will isn't just about doing whatever you want. It's about deciding which thoughts get your attention. It's about mastering what he called the art of thinking straight. Now, let's be clear. James wasn't saying you can control every thought that pops into your head. You can't. None of us can. But what you can do, what you must do, is decide which thoughts you focus on. That's the real power. Imagine your mind as a busy intersection. Thoughts are coming and going, honking for your attention. Some of them, they deserve to pass through, but others, they're distractions, a noise, maybe even dangerous. And if you don't take control, you'll end up following the wrong ones, getting lost in places you never meant to go. James understood that in a world full of endless information, opinions, and distractions, most people feel overwhelmed, like they're stuck in a mental traffic jam. But he found a way out. He realized that by choosing what to focus on, we take back control. That's not just theory, that's real. That's life-changing. Now, James didn't call it mindfulness, but that's exactly what he was practicing. He believed in the power of stillness, the ability to pause, step back, and observe your thoughts before reacting to them. Because here's the truth. Most thoughts, they're temporary. They're irrational. They're not all worth your time. And once you start seeing them for what they are, you can choose which ones serve you and which ones to let go. And that's the key. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean you have to believe it. It doesn't mean you have to accept it as truth. If a thought tells you I'm not good enough, you don't have to let that define you. You can challenge it, question it, reject it. Just like you'd ignore a stranger making a false claim about you. That's the power James discovered. That's the power you have right now. The power to decide which thoughts shape your life. So the question is, who's in charge? You or your thoughts? Next. Now, this isn't just about flipping a switch and suddenly having control over your mind. No, this is a skill. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you train it. William James figured this out. He realized that selective focus wasn't just a one-time decision. It was a habit, a discipline, something that had to be built over time. At first, it wasn't easy. You don't just erase years of doubt, fear, or negative thinking overnight. James struggled. The old thoughts, the self-doubt, the insecurity, the fear, they didn't just disappear. But he didn't quit. He kept making the choice, day after day, thought after thought. And every time he did, he was investing in a better future. He compared it to physical exercise. You don't get strong by lifting weights once. You get strong by doing it consistently. And the mind works the same way. The more you train it to focus on the right thoughts, the more natural it becomes. The stronger you get. And here's the thing. Not every thought deserves your attention. You hear that? Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean you have to entertain it. James understood this. The mind is like a machine, constantly generating thoughts. Some useful, some completely useless, some even destructive. But you have a choice. You get to decide which ones to keep and which ones to throw away. Think about it like a TV. You've got hundreds of channels. Some are filled with knowledge, growth, inspiration. Others, nothing but noise, negativity, garbage. Now, if you're sitting there watching a channel that's making you miserable, what do? You change the channel. And that's exactly what James realized. Your thoughts work the same way. Now, is it always easy? No, some thoughts are stubborn. They demand attention. But with practice, you get better. You develop the ability to shift, to focus, to take control. And let me tell you, when you start doing this, when you start consistently choosing thoughts that align with your goals, your values, your purpose, you will feel a shift. You'll feel stronger, more in control, more capable. James saw this firsthand. When he focused on empowering thoughts, he felt centered. When he let negativity take over, he felt drained. Simple as that. And over time, he realized something huge. Selective focus is a form of self-respect. Letting negative, self-defeating thoughts dominate your mind. That's surrendering your power. But choosing thoughts that build you up. That's honoring yourself. That's making a commitment to be your best. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about pretending life is always positive. No, James didn't believe in denial. He knew life comes with setbacks, with struggle, with pain. But the key, how you respond. Do you sit in the setback? Do you let it define you? Or do you shift your focus, learn the lesson, and keep moving forward? That's the difference. That's resilience. And that's why this practice isn't just about thinking better. It's about living better. It's about taking control of your mental environment, choosing thoughts that empower you, and refusing to let negativity dictate your life. James applied this every single day, and because of it, he didn't just overcome his personal struggles. He changed psychology, philosophy, and education. He left a legacy and the lesson. If he could do it, so can you. Because the power has always been there. The question is, will you use it? Next. Now, most people don't think. They react. They drift. Their minds are scattered, pulled in 100 directions, never focused, never disciplined. William James saw this, and he made it his mission to master what he called thinking straight. Now, what does that mean? It means clarity. It means control. It means training your mind to cut through the noise, to stay on track, to focus on what actually matters. Because without discipline, the mind is a mess. Distracted, overwhelmed, filled with worries that don't serve you. And James knew that if you want to build a strong life, it starts with building a strong mind. So how do you do it? First, set clear priorities. James understood that if you don't decide what's important, the world will decide for you. And let me tell you, the world is full of distractions, full of meaningless noise. So what did he do? Every single day, he reminded himself of what mattered most. His goals, his principles, his purpose. Those became his mental compass. And when his mind started to wander, he pulled it back. Back to the mission, back to the things that actually moved his life forward. Second, eliminate distractions. James knew that the biggest killer of focus isn't lack of intelligence. It's lack of discipline. The world is constantly trying to pull your attention in 1,000 directions. But he trained himself to ignore the things that didn't serve him. Gossip, not worth his time. Worrying about things he couldn't control. A waste of energy. He treated his focus like it was gold. Because it was. And he refused to spend it on anything that didn't move him forward. Third, question assumptions. This one's big. Most people go through life running on beliefs they've never examined. Ideas they've picked up from society, family, old experiences, never stopping to ask, is this actually true? James wasn't one of those people. He challenged every assumption, stripped away the nonsense, and made sure his thinking was based on reality, not outdated, unexamined beliefs. And finally, embrace simplicity. James saw what most people miss. Complexity is a trap. The more tangled your thoughts, the harder it is to see the truth. So he made it a habit to strip things down, to get to the core. What actually matters here? What's the simple, clear truth? Because when your mind is clear, your decisions are better. And when your decisions are better, your life is better. That's what thinking straight is all about. It's about focus. It's about discipline. It's about cutting out the garbage and sharpening your mind like a weapon. James mastered it. And if you want to take control of your life, you need to master it too. Next, resilience isn't about pretending life is easy. It's not about ignoring the struggles, brushing aside the setbacks, or forcing yourself to smile through the pain. No, resilience is about strength. It's about having the kind of mind that can take a hit, adapt, and keep moving forward. William James understood this. He didn't just stumble upon resilience. He built it one thought at a time. See, James figured out something crucial. You don't control everything that happens to you. Life throws curveballs, you lose, you fail, you struggle. That's reality. But what you do control, how you think about it, the perspective you take. And James made a choice. Every challenge, every setback, he would frame in a way that made him stronger. Instead of asking, why me? He asked, what can I learn? How does this make me better? That shift changed everything. And let me tell you, one of those powerful weapons against negativity, gratitude. James didn't wait for perfect conditions to be thankful. He made it a habit. Every single day. Because gratitude isn't just an emotion. It's a practice. A choice. You focus on what you have, not what you lack. And when you do that, your mindset shifts. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and you start realizing you have more than you think. Now, another key. Acceptance. Listen to me. Fighting against reality is wasted energy. You don't control the past. You don't control everything that happens. But you do control how you respond. James learned this the hard way. He realized that resisting what he couldn't change drained his strength, distracted his focus, and left him stuck. So he made a shift. He practiced acceptance. Not as weakness, but as strategy. He let go of what he couldn't control and redirected his energy to what he could. That's real power. And here's another thing. Resilience isn't just about toughness. It's about self-compassion. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall short. But James understood that beating yourself up only weakens you. Self-criticism. That's the enemy of resilience. So instead, he practiced patience, understanding. He learned to treat himself with the same kindness he'd offer a friend. Because when you do that, you bounce back faster. You move forward instead of getting stuck in regret. But make no mistake, resilience isn't passive. It's not about just hoping you'll handle challenges well. No, it's about preparing for them. James didn't expect life to be easy. He trained his mind for the hard times. He rehearsed how he'd respond to setbacks. He visualized himself staying calm under pressure. So when difficulties came, and they always come, he wasn't scrambling. He was ready. And above all, James believed in growth. Every challenge was a lesson. Every obstacle was an opportunity. He saw setbacks not as failures, but as steps forward. Because that's what resilience is. It's the refusal to see obstacles as the end of the road, It's the choice to rise, to adapt, to keep pushing forward. So here's the lesson. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build daily. Thought by thought. You focus on what makes you stronger, not what drags you down. You practice gratitude, acceptance, self-respect. You prepare for the storms so they don't shake you. And when you fall, and you will fall, you don't stay down, you get back up. You always get back up. Next, change is not the enemy. Change is life. Everything around you is in motion, shifting, evolving. You can fight it, you can resist it, but in the end you'll lose. Because change doesn't wait for permission. It happens, with or without you. William James figured that out. And when he did, it changed everything. See, at first James struggled with change, just like most people do. We all love the familiar. We cling to routines. We want things to stay the same because it feels safe. But James realized something. Staying the same. That's not safety. That's stagnation. And stagnation is death. Nothing grows without change. Nothing improves without movement. So instead of fearing change, he made a decision. He would embrace it. Not just tolerate it. Master it. The first step. Changing how he saw uncertainty. Look, nobody likes the unknown. It's uncomfortable. It's unsettling. But James flipped the script. He stopped seeing uncertainty as a threat and started seeing it as opportunity. Every time change came knocking, instead of saying, what if this goes wrong? He asked, what if this makes me stronger? That shift in mindset gave him power. It gave him confidence. He didn't need to control everything. He just needed to trust that he could handle whatever came next. And let me tell you, resisting change, that's where suffering comes from. James learned that the hard way. The more you hold on to the past, the more you fight reality, the more stress, anxiety, and frustration you create for yourself. But the moment you let go, the moment you accept change for what it is, that's when you get your freedom back. James made a habit of checking in with himself, asking, what am I holding on to that no longer serves me? And if something was weighing him down, he let it go. Simple as that. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. They think setbacks mean failure. They think obstacles mean they're off track. But James knew better. He saw every setback as a lesson, every challenge as a teacher. He understood that growth comes from struggle, that every difficulty carried something valuable inside it. So instead of getting stuck in self-pity, he asked, what can I learn from this? How does this make me better? And that right there, that's how you turn change into fuel. James also understood something critical. Goals are important, but they have to be flexible. Most people set rigid goals, and when life throws them a curveball, they panic. But James focused on something deeper, values. Because while plans may need to change, your core values don't. And when you lock in on those, when you let your principles guide you instead of external expectations, you can adapt, adjust, and still stay on course. That's real strength. And listen to this. James knew that not all answers come right away. Most people panic when they don't have everything figured out. They rush decisions. They try to force clarity. But James, he practiced patience. He trusted the process. He gave himself the space to sit with the unknown, to let things unfold naturally. And that patience gave him peace. Because he knew clarity comes with time. In the end, James didn't just accept change. He welcomed it. He saw it as a gift. Every shift, every transformation, every unexpected turn. It was all shaping him, refining him, bringing him closer to who he was meant to be. That's the mindset. That's the way forward. Change isn't the enemy. It's the path. The only question is, are you going to fight it or are you going to use it? Lastly, most people drift. They wake up, go through the motions, handle whatever life throws at them, and never stop to ask, what's the point? Where am I going? And that's why they feel lost, scattered, exhausted. But William James, he figured out the secret. He realized that without purpose, the mind is a ship without a rudder, getting tossed around, never reaching shore. Purpose-driven thinking. That's what gives you direction. That's what keeps you focused, steady, locked in on what actually matters. James saw that if you don't define your purpose, life will define it for you. And trust me, that's not a game you want to play. So where do you start? Know your values. James understood that if you don't know what you stand for, your thoughts will be all over the place, reacting to everything, distracted by nonsense, chasing things that don't matter. So he got clear. He identified what was non-negotiable, things like integrity, growth, and contribution. And once he locked in on those, everything else became easier. His values became his compass. If something didn't align, he ignored it. If it did, he pursued it with everything he had. Next, get specific. Vague goals. Vague results. James knew that clarity is power. He didn't just think about what he wanted. He got clear on why it mattered and how he was going to get there. Every goal, every project, every decision, he made sure it served his bigger mission. That's the difference between people who make progress and people who stay stuck. But here's the thing. Having big goals isn't enough. You have to connect them to your daily actions. James saw how easy it is to get caught up in the small stuff. News, errands, distractions, and lose sight of the bigger picture. So he made a habit of checking in with himself. Is this moving me forward? Is this aligned with my mission? If the answer was no, he cut it. No hesitation. That's the level of discipline it takes. And that leads to another critical lesson. Learn to say no. Listen, not everything deserves your time. Not every opportunity is worth your attention. James realized that every time he said yes to something unimportant, he was saying no to something that actually mattered. So he got ruthless. If it didn't serve his purpose, he walked away. And that's why he was able to focus on what truly counted. Now, here's what set James apart. His purpose wasn't just about him. He saw that a meaningful life is one that contributes, one that serves, one that gives. He believed that real fulfillment doesn't come from chasing personal success. It comes from using what you have to help others. That's what made his mission powerful. That's what gave his work depth. And that's why he never burned out, because he wasn't just working for himself. But let's be real. Staying connected to your purpose isn't always easy. There will be obstacles. There will be days where doubt creeps in, or things don't go as planned. James knew that. But he also knew that purpose isn't something you set once and forget. It's something you revisit, reflect on, reaffirm. And when life knocks you down, you don't question the mission. You adjust, adapt, and keep moving forward. And that's what purpose-driven thinking does. It gives you resilience. It gives you clarity. It gives you the fuel to keep pushing even when things get tough. Because when you know what you're working toward, when you know why it matters, you stop looking for motivation. You become motivation. In the end, James realized that purpose isn't about chasing success. It's about alignment. It's about living every day in a way that reflects your values. That's what brings real fulfillment. Not money. Not status, meaning. Contribution. The knowledge that you're making an impact. That's what makes life worth living. And if you don't have that yet, it's time to find it.